I never believed I'd encounter a begging girl wearing my missing daughter's identical jewel. The daylight glinted off the necklace, illuminating the small emerald, its heart-stopping beauty contrasting bitterly to the grime and dust clinging to the girl's skin. She stood on the street corner, her hands clasped together, trembling slightly, not from the chill in the air, but from something deeper, something painful simmering in her eyes. I could barely breathe. My heart pounded aggressively in my chest, each beat a reminder of the gaping hole left in my life. I had lost her. I had lost my daughter, Lily, just over a year ago. I could still hear the echoes of her laughter, feel the warmth of her small hands wrapped around my fingers. But here stood this girl, begging, yet adorned with the jewel that had once sparkled with life on my daughter's neck. The girl looked no older than 12. Her clothes were patched, the fabric worn through, yet her eyes shone with a fierce intelligence that made me ache. I could feel the onlookers, slight whispers passing through the small crowd. Look at that. Did you see the necklace? Their curiosity mingled with pity. It was too much. My stomach twisted as I stepped closer. Where did you get that? My voice barely rose above a whisper, but the urgency was palpable. The girl flinched, but didn't back away. Instead, she dropped her gaze, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Please, I just need enough for food. Her words tumbled out in a hurried breath, rehearsed maybe, or perhaps a desperate plea echoing through her soul. But all I could focus on was that jewel. My mind raced. What if it was linked to her? What if this girl had seen something? What if she was connected to Lily somehow? The possibilities swirled like a storm inside my head, making my heart race even faster. Time didn't feel real, and the world around us faded into a blurry backdrop. I knelt down to meet her gaze. Do you know my daughter? Her name is Lily. She wore that necklace. And as I said it, a flicker of recognition sparked in her eyes. My stomach dropped. Hope intertwined painfully with despair. The girl hesitated, her lower lip quivering. I found it. I swear, she stammered, confusion flashing across her face. But maybe I can help you find her. My breath caught. Could she? Was there a glimmer of hope in this darkness? A cold wind rushed by, sending chills down my spine. I glanced at the bystanders. They watched, their faces a mix of concern and judgment. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone, the thought of contacting the authorities gripping me. Yet fear wrapped around me tightly, squeezing, threatening to choke me. I wanted to believe, but could I trust this girl? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The girl's eyes flashed with an emotion I could barely decipher. Fear, perhaps, mingled with an overwhelming desire to trust or to protect. I was lost in that moment, caught between the fragile thread of hope and the looming shadows of doubt. The street around us continued its mundane rhythm, but here, time stood still as if the universe was waiting for us to make a choice. What do you mean you can help me find her? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. If you found it, then you must know something. Where you found it, or someone you met. My heart raced, clinging to the phantom of possibility, but doubt crept in like a cloud. You can't just mean help, I continued, hoping for clarity, but dreading what that clarity might reveal. The girl's shoulders slumped, and the fierceness in her eyes dulled. I just know things, okay? Things about where people go. Her voice was softer now, edged with a hint of something that sounded a lot like guilt. Sometimes I see the places they don't want to be seen. The crowd behind me began to melt away, their murmurs fading into the distance, but the weight of the moment pressed heavily on my chest. The only thing clear was the sharp, raw ache of worry that if I didn't do something soon, I might lose this chance. Can you come with me somewhere? We can talk, away from this crowd, I urged, desperation creeping into my tone. I offered her a glimpse of a world beyond her current reality, a world of warmth and safety, one that felt like a distant memory to me as well. The girl looked torn, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to swoop in and whisk her away from me. But something shifted, deep within her. She squared her shoulders, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of determination ignite behind those weary eyes. Okay, but just for a little bit. I can't go too far. With that, we stepped towards a nearby cafe, the scent of coffee and pastries wafting through the air, a small sanctuary amid the chaos outside. I looked down at my phone again, the urgency swelling inside of me, but I forced myself to keep it in my pocket. This was about finding Lily, not bringing in strangers. As we settled into a corner, the girl wrapped her hands around a lukewarm cup of coffee, her fingers trembling slightly. I pushed a warm croissant towards her, and she eyed it for a moment before tearing off a piece and chewing it slowly, almost as if savoring a delicacy instead of a desperate meal. I am sorry to ask like this, what's your name? I finally asked, doing my best to soften my voice, to understand the girl behind the broken facade. Maisie, she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. For a moment, I couldn't form a coherent thought beyond trying to grasp that this was Maisie. This was a real child sitting in front of me, a child who had seen something that could lead to my daughter. Maisie, can you tell me what you've seen? Anything at all. My impatience bubbled under the surface, but I forced myself to stay calm. You mentioned places. What do you know? The flicker in her eyes dimmed, and she looked away, as if bracing herself against a wave of memories crashing over her. Sometimes I'm just looking, listening. People leave things behind, places they don't want to go back to, you know? Like what? I pressed, my pulse quickening. The night I found the necklace I was hiding. She hesitated. Near the old warehouse by the river. I heard people talking. Scared, angry voices. Then something broke, and there was a loud sound. I didn't want to be seen. I just ran away. A cold dread seized my heart. The warehouse by the river, it was a place I had heard mentioned before, a shrouded location steeped in whispers of illicit activities. Could it connect to Lily's disappearance? Do you think they took her there? My voice was barely above a whisper, but I could feel hope blossoming tainted with fear. Maisie's eyes widened, and then her expression shifted, revealing something that looked almost like regret. I never wanted to say anything. I thought it was safer to just forget. A chill ran down my spine as an unsettling thought struck me. If she was hiding from something, what had she really witnessed? Before I could press her further, the cafe door swung open, and a gust of wind rushed in, accompanied by the unmistakable figure of a man in a dark coat. My heart sank. I recognized him immediately. He was part of the shadows I never wanted to acknowledge, the very essence of what haunted my dreams. Maisie, he said, his tone icy, as he locked eyes with her. Panic erupted in my chest. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from whatever danger he posed. You shouldn't be here. But before I could react, she bolted from the table, the cup clattering to the floor, and I was left frozen, stuck in that moment, afraid of what would come next as the secrets of the past began to unravel. Maisie's flight sent a jolt of adrenaline coursing through my veins. The cafe, once a refuge, transformed into a cage of uncertainty. I glanced at the man still standing at the entrance, surveying the chaos he had just conjured with a cold, predatory glee. I had come here searching for answers, but this moment felt like being trapped in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake. That I hesitated, yearning to go after her, but the man's presence rooted me in place. There was a darkness around him that sent shivers down my spine. I had to protect Maisie. She was only a child holding pieces to a puzzle that could change everything. Who are you? I demanded, my voice rising above the din of the cafe. The small circle of onlookers had grown, but even their interest had morphed into a morbid curiosity, as though they sensed a storm brewing. The man's lips curled into a smirk, reflecting something vile and unyielding. Just someone concerned for the girl, he replied, his voice low and menacing. She should be careful where she wanders. Not everyone has good intentions. Let her go. My words launched like arrows, but they had no effect. Fear replaced determination in my chest, the chasm within me widening. He wasn't merely a threat to Maisie. He was a doorway to all the unresolved fears I had regarding Lily. Without another thought, I surged toward him, desperation propelling me. What do you know about Lily? The crowd parted slightly. A throbbing tension pulsed around us, the patrons shifting between their coffee and our confrontation like silent spectators at a gladiatorial match. His eyes glinted with a mixture of amusement and annoyance at my outburst. Lily? The lost little girl? Now, why would you think I have anything to do with her? His condescending tone prickled across my skin, igniting an anger I struggled to suppress. Because you've been watching. You know things. The man raised his hand as if to silence me. My voice faltered, choking on the realization that perhaps he had been lurking in the shadows for more than just Maisie. The happenstance of that very morning felt like a cruel twist of fate, leading me straight to this confrontation without a plan, without a clue as to how to protect those innocent enough to cross his path. But as my heart raced, an unexpected sound pierced my thoughts. A soft, trembling voice called from the entrance. "Don't go with him, Maisie." It was a woman, her face framed by shadows, yet the fierce protectiveness in her gaze stood out against the gloomy backdrop. "You're stronger than you think. Run." A surge of hope erupted within me at the sight, but I knew better than to dwell on the glimmering possibilities. The man turned sharply towards the woman, his grin dissipating into a snarl, each step he took toward her resonating with a promise of violent intent. "You shouldn't interfere," he warned, his voice low and threatening. In that moment of chaos, I caught a glimpse of Maisie through the cafe window, glancing back at the commotion. She needed me now more than ever. This wasn't about me, Anna Marie, it was about her escape. "Maisie." My voice broke through, raw with panic. "Come back." But my desperation only drove the girl forward, slipping through the throngs until she disappeared into the streets, leaving just the echo of her footsteps behind. The man's eyes narrowed, and I lunged instinctively, driven by a growing ferocity. "Get away from her." He turned toward me suddenly, his demeanor shifting from bemused to menacing. "You should watch your back. The world is not as safe as you want to believe." Fury boiled within me, mingled with fear and desperation. Who was this man? What nefarious web lay beneath his layers? In the back of my mind, I wondered if he was tied to Lily's disappearance somehow, but the questions begged for answers I had no clarity on. Just then, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, the tight knot of dread twisting tighter. Without breaking the stare down with the man, I fished it out, my heart pausing as I recognized the incoming call. The caller ID cracked my heart wide open. It was a detective I hadn't heard from in weeks, a name that had once promised hope, but now felt like a cold reminder of the darkness lingering in my life. Desperation collided with anticipation. Would this call offer the leads I had yearned for? Or would it plunge me further into shadows? I couldn't allow the moment to slip away. "Get out of my way," I snarled at the man before me, raising the phone defiantly, ready to answer the unknown that awaited me on the other end. But as I pressed accept, dread washed over me, a sinking feeling that I might just open the door to something darker than I had ever imagined. The call connected, and the detective's voice came through, barely cutting through the chaos of the cafe's atmosphere. "I need you to listen carefully," he said, urgency weighing heavily on his words. My heart raced, pumping adrenaline through my system, as though clawing for the hope that his next sentence could hold. "What do you have?" I asked, my voice shaking, a mixture of desperation and dread mixing in my throat. "That we found something. I think you should come to the station. It's about Lily." The cryptic words hung in the air, pulling me into a chasm of uncertainty. My mind grappled with the implication of those few syllables while the man before me surveyed the scene with a predatory glint, as if savoring my dawning horror. "Lily?" The name slipped from my lips, more a whisper than a plea. Everything else, the cafe, the crowd, the threat of the man faded away. It felt as if the world around me paused, waiting for something to ignite. "Yes," the detective continued. "You need to come now. It's urgent." The man's smirk returned at my moment of hesitation, a cat-and-mouse game swirling with the air thickening between us. I could feel the crowd's eyes boring into the tension, but my attention fixed solely on the detective's words. "They'll be there," I said, and before the detective could protest, I ended the call, slipping my phone back into my pocket with trembling hands. That I turned my attention back to the man, ready to summon my last ounce of courage. "You'll regret this," he taunted. "You think you can protect them? You're merely delaying the inevitable." I glared at him, an emotional storm brewing as I sidestepped him, instinctively bolting towards the exit. Yet, the moment I pushed through the door, a sudden chill gripped my heart. I was struck by a weight of regret. Maisie had fled into the city, vulnerable and alone. With urgency spiking my heart rate, I forced myself to focus. I couldn't abandon her. I had to find her before that sinister man could re-establish his dark hold. My instincts screamed at me to follow, to trace the outline of a girl fleeing into unknown territory, a chance that hung precariously in the balance that I raced down the street, weaving through bustling pedestrians and loud vehicles. My mind was a tangled mess of fear, frantic thoughts of Lily, and an all-consuming determination to protect Maisie. I could see her fleeting figure in the distance, a bittersweet reminder of all I had lost and finally come to reclaim. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my attention. A slight form appeared, standing on the corner of the street. It was a girl, no older than 10, with dark curly hair and wide, frightened eyes. I approached slowly, curiosity piqued as my heartbeat quickened, trying to gauge if it was simply a figment of my imagination or something more. Her gaze fixated on me, sparkling with recognition that sent a rush of clarity through my head. My breath caught as I realized she was wearing a necklace, a piece that clashed against the backdrop of her innocent appearance, the same jade pendant that belonged to Lily. "Where did you get that?" I asked, my voice demanding but desperate for clarity. I felt my heart lurch, a mix of hope and fear clouding my thoughts. The girl's small hands trembled as she clutched the pendant. I found it. Someone said it belonged to me, but I don't remember," she stammered, confusion washing over her expression. "Someone? Who?" My voice cracked, urgency swathed in desperation. The world around us faded. It felt as if the air itself bore witness to the profound connection thrumming between us, a thread binding me to Lily. With her brow knit in gentle concern, the girl responded, "A man. He was scary, but then he said I had to keep it safe. That I was special." Fear rushed through me, cascading like a flash flood. In that moment, it all became too real. The man, the darkness he radiated, reaching out for more than just Maisie. He was entwining himself with these fragile children, tempting them with a silhouette of hope, while obscuring a horrific truth. "Where did he take you?" I asked, pushing aside the gnawing fear. Clawing at my heart. I don't remember," she admitted, her voice quavering, "but he told me I'd see my family again if I listened. Please, you have to remember." I pleaded, every sentence escaping my lips steeped in my own uncertainty. This younger version of Lily, tethered by this connection of lost childhood, held answers I desperately needed. Just then, I felt a shadow loom over us, the familiar chill creeping back into the fold. I turned, dread pooling in my stomach when I saw the man standing at the edge of the street, those predatory eyes fixated on our exchange, a thunderous silence hanging heavy between us. "Let her go," I commanded, my voice breaking the tension. But beneath my words, I felt the waves of despair crashing over me anew. My world was unraveling before my eyes. And as the girl shuddered under the weight of his presence, I wondered just how deeply we were caught in this treacherous web. With a slight smile, the man drew closer, each step resonating with danger. "You think you can save them both?" he mused, the darkness around him seeming almost palpable. "You have no idea what's at stake. And soon, you won't have a choice at all." Chills ran down my spine as realization crashed over me. The stakes had risen far beyond my imagination. I had stepped deeper into a nightmare without realizing I was not merely fighting for Maisie's safety, but for the very soul of a girl I had lost long ago. I stood frozen, my legs unwilling to move as the weight of the man's presence pressed around me. The predatory smile etched onto his face was enough to chill my blood. I glanced back at the girl, her wide eyes mirroring my fear, and in that moment, I felt a vicious wave of protectiveness surge within me. "Step away from her," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. The strength in my tone surprised even me, a flicker of resolve igniting amidst the dread swirling in my stomach. I took a step toward him. "You don't want to do this." His laugh pierced the air, rich and sinister. But don't you see? This is precisely what I want. Control over the weak, the lost." He leaned closer to the girl, extending a hand as if to stroke her hair, but she flinched away. Such innocence, such malleability. It's such a pleasure to mold them. I winced at the implication each of his words carried. The depths of depravity in his tone curled my stomach into knots. "She's not yours to control," I asserted fiercely. "You'll never have that kind of power over anyone." He straightened, his eyes narrowing with a dangerous glint. But you're mistaken. Power doesn't require possession. It simply needs the right leverage. In that heartbeat, danger enveloped me, wrapping around my heart tighter than before. I turned to the girl again, kneeling down so our eyes met. "Listen to me," I said in what I hoped was a soothing voice despite the chaos raging within. "You need to find a way to escape. It's not safe here. Can you run?" Her expression faltered, caught between fear and confusion. "But he said he know what he said." I cut her off with urgency. "But you have to trust me. I'll help you, I promise." The man barked another laugh, interrupting our moment. "You think you can just whisk her away? How naive. She belongs to me now, a part of something much bigger than you can comprehend." Panic skittered through my veins, and I felt the old shadows of despair creeping in. The detective's words echoed in my mind: search for Lily, protect Maisie, but how far could my resolve stretch against this malevolence? Suddenly, I remembered the necklace. I risked a glance at its emerald hue, a beacon of hope amidst this darkness, like box knot to my soul. I drew a deep breath, steadying myself. "What do you want from us? Why are you doing this?" The man's smile faded, replaced with an unsettling seriousness. "I will shape them into instruments of power, and you will watch as it all unfolds. You're part of the game, whether you like it or not." "Game?" I echoed, the word bitter on my tongue. "What kind of game involves children?" "You're a monster." My words shifted, something deep within me, a raw vulnerability mingling with pure rage. The girl shifted her gaze downward, and for a moment, I saw the flicker of hope extinguished in her eyes. It broke me further. "Enough." The man barked, his patience wearing thin. "You are talking too much, revealing your weaknesses." He glanced to the side, and in that fleeting moment, I sensed the presence of others. I felt the tension tighten, warning me that my time was limited, that the stakes were rising, and I had to act now. I looked desperately around, searching for an escape. My heart raced in time with the cacophony of the city, drowning out the sinking weight of fear. "Run," I urged the girl, despite every fiber tugging me back. "As fast as you can. They'll hold him off. Find help, find someone." She hesitated, fear anchoring her feet to the ground. But with a nudge from me, her legs sprung into motion, taking her away from the dread looming before us. As I turned to face the man, I felt a glimmer of triumph. This small act of defiance reminded me that hope, however fragile, still existed. "You won't take her, or any other child, from me," I shouted, adrenaline surging. He stepped toward me, every advance he made brimming with malice. "Oh, but you're mistaken. They already belong to me. You are simply too late." And then, in one swift motion, the man pulled something from his coat, an object glinting menacingly in the light, filling the air with a disquiet I had never known. My heart dropped as dread sunk its claws deep into my flesh. "The clock is ticking," he warned, holding the object aloft. "You have moments to decide. Save your child, or let me turn this into a nightmare." His words hung in the air, a grave promise that twisted the tension tighter around me. I felt the world shift beneath my feet, struggling to comprehend the implications of that vile threat. Did he truly have something that could further devastate everything I held dear? In that moment, I understood. The battle wasn't just for Maisie's safety, but for an unyielding fight against the encroaching darkness seeking to drown us all. As uncertainty clawed at my beliefs, I stood resolved, desperate to confront the horror that awaited. "Lily," I whispered, feeling her presence pulse in the air around us. Merging with my conscience in courageous solidarity, "I will not allow it." But just as I gathered the last remnants of my strength, the reality of the situation set in, and the desperate moment dropped heavy like stones upon my chest, further entwining me in the intricacies of a game I had never intended to play. I stared at the man, disbelief clawing at my insides as I struggled to process the gravity of his threat. The object glinting in his hand pulsated with menace, an omen that seemed to warp the air around us. My breath quickened, each inhale tasting more metallic than the last, each exhale barely containing the tremor of my panic. His smile returned, widening with wicked delight, feeding on my anxiety. "You see? The clock has already begun to tick. Every second you hesitate is another second I grow closer to winning this game. This artifact holds power not just of control, but of understanding." He beckoned me closer, the sinister invitation laced with a dangerous clarity. It reveals the truth of those with buried treasures, such as your precious Lily, that I fought the impulse to step forward, the urge to relinquish my defiance and surrender to the chilling allure of that object. Was it possible that the key to understanding more about Lily's disappearance lay within that small, cursed artifact? The temptation twisted within me, gnawing at my resolve like a relentless tide. "You're lying," I spat, words emerging as a protective shield. "You know nothing about my daughter, Dodo." "But I do," he replied, his voice dropping an octave, carrying an unsettling intimacy. "What if I told you that there are more connections between your child and this situation than you could possibly ever imagine?" A myriad of emotions crashed against one another inside me. Anger, fear, and the bittersweet delusion of hope. What twisted fate had ensnared both my daughter and this girl, the one who bore a necklace so strikingly familiar to the one Lily used to wear? My heart thudded heavily, uncertain if it could bear the weight of another wound. "What do you mean?" I asked, a seed of panic breaking through the hardened shell of my bravado. "What are you talking about?" He leaned closer, his eyes gleaming with a predatory intent. "You'll find answers if you're willing to play the part," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "The game not only requires a prize, but also a willing participant who understands the stakes." "Stop!" I screamed, my voice cracking. "Just stop playing with their lives." The girl Maisie was gone, running to the safety of the unseen, but my heart ached for her. What if I had just placed her deeper into this man's darkness? I couldn't let doubts fester. I could not bear the thought of Lily's fate intertwining with this predator's game. The man's laughter echoed, a sound that irked my primal instincts. "Oh, my dear, the outcome is not solely in your hands. It's shaping long before your arrival. But like any puppet show, you might choose who dances or falls." That I turned away, my hands shaking at my sides. The air felt thick with danger, palpable and suffocating. I had to think, to find a way to protect Maisie, to find Lily. As my heart raced, I thought of the necklace she had worn, wheeled into a dimension of hope or darkness. Its emerald brilliance sat heavy on my chest. Each beat reminded me that I couldn't falter. I had to break these chains. "Where are the others?" I demanded tightly, needing to find the flicker of those I loved amidst the vast shadows looming over this place. "What have you done?" His amusement flickered as he admitted, "They're very much alive," drawing closer. "But tell me, is your determination so ardent because you believe they will save you?" He began to tilt the object in his hand, catching the errant light just so, forcing my gaze to obey its beckoning glimmer. "Or perhaps you believe you can save them." A shiver traveled down my spine as uncertainty pooled in the pit of my stomach, threatening to swallow me whole. The truth hung thick in the air, hovering like a bitter drizzle over my heart. But as the ticking of that ominous clock surged against the quiet jazz of the world outside, I grew more resolute that I won't let fear dictate my actions. "I will find them." His smile turned into a crooked sneer, revealing layers of malice beneath the charming facade. "The choice is yours. Choose wisely, or all those you cherish may be lost within the void you refuse to acknowledge." Just then, a sound broke the tension, a faint noise that fluttered toward us, barely perceptible over the hum of the city. It was a child's voice, a sweet echo lost in the tide of chaos, hauntingly reminiscent of Lily. My heart raced at the sound, hope rising like bubbles in a tide, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine or a cruel trick. "Lily," I breathed, desperation weaving through my voice as I scanned the shadows. "Is that you?" The man's demeanor shifted, his expression flickering from amusement to concern. "Did I hear your precious child's name?" As my heart threatened to burst from my chest, I clenched my fists, knowing the stakes had been raised. Our battle was far from over. I was left dangling on a precipice. The shadows stretched before me, dark and forbidding, but at the same time, there lay the possibility of stepping into the light if only I could hold fast to that thread of hope. "Find her if you dare," he warned, the menace in his voice sharpening like a blade. "But remember, each choice comes with a cost." And with that, he slipped the object into the depths of his coat, masking the truth within the folds of his sinister laughter. The shadow looming over me widened. This twisted game had only just begun. The streets outside felt like a maze as I backed away from the man, a phantom of uncertainty clinging to my heels. Each step reverberated with the echo of his laughter, a dissonant harmony that twisted within my chest. The city pulsed with life, but all I felt was the haunting mention of Lily's name. A fragile thread tugging me toward nightmares I was helpless to avoid as I stumbled into an alley, breathing in the acrid scent of damp concrete and decay, stark reminder of the darkness encroaching in my life. I was alone, the cacophony of the world beyond muffled by the overpowering weight of fear thundering in my chest. The man had been right about one thing. With every fleeting moment, I was losing time. Time that could lead me to my daughter or, worse still, conclude my doomed search in despair. But the voice had been so real. My heart waged a war within itself, igniting my spirit while simultaneously extinguishing my reason. Just as I began to collect fragments of courage, a soft whimper threaded through the air, shattering my thoughts. It was a sound that clawed at my insides, as if it originated from the depths of my greatest fears. "Please, I can't keep hiding," a voice begged. I turned sharply, my eyes searching the dimness for the source. Emerging from the shadows was a girl, face streaked with dirt, eyes that shimmered with hard-earned tears and unshed hope. "Maisie?" I called out hesitantly, my heart thrumming like a desperate drum. She stepped forward, the dim light catching on the familiar shape of a necklace hugging her neck, an unmistakable emerald glinting in the faint glow. Are you looking for your daughter?" Her words trembled, the air around us heavy with unspoken fears. In that moment, I recognized that the sparkle of the jewel was indeed an echo of something lost, and it ignited a flicker of kinship in the horrific isolation of our circumstances. "Yes, where is she? You have to tell me." I reached for her, but she flinched at the suddenness of my movements, her distance a stark reminder of the tension wrapping around us. "I don't know where she is," Maisie cried, the anguish in her voice clawing at my heart. "There was a man, just like the one you spoke to. He came for me, for Lily," and now her voice trailed off, grief flooding her eyes, casting shadows that looked too old for such a young face. "We can find them together," I said, forcing calmness into my voice, even as the tempest of dread churned inside me. "What did he want from you?" To my surprise, the girl hesitated, her gaze drifting away as if the memories pained her. "He wanted me to play a game with him. Something about revealing truths. There were whispers about darkness and light, how everything has a price. I echoed, the words settling between us like a curse. Each syllable carried the weight of sacrifice, a chilling reminder of what could be lost in this twisted journey I was stepping into. Maisie's eyes sharpened, and she leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said I could save her. If I did what he asked, save Lily?" My voice rose with the desperation of 1,000 unanswered questions. "Yes, but it cost more than I could imagine. I was afraid what would happen if I failed." Her words poured out like a torrent, unspooled tales of manipulation that curled around my heart like vines of despair. In this shared vulnerability, I decided I couldn't let my fear dictate my actions. "We'll figure it out," I reassured her. "We'll find a way. Together." I couldn't afford to let go of the thread of hope we were weaving, even as the depths of uncertainty yawned before us. But just as I began to search my depths for courage, the familiar melody of danger played, cutting sharply through the fragile optimism that enveloped us. A dark figure emerged from the end of the alley, and my breath caught. The man was back, the glint of his artifact now bobbing freely in his hands like a pendulum counting down to disaster. "I hope you aren't planning to run," he taunted, a satisfied grin distorting his cruel features. "Such sweet little moments of camaraderie you've formed. Unfortunately, I don't think you'll have the luxury of a choice anymore." My heart thundered against my ribcage. A flicker of defiance ignited within me. I couldn't be the prey anymore. I glanced at Maisie, seeing the spark of bravery igniting in her eyes, too. "Stand with me," I whispered, a newfound strength rising amid our fear. But then, a realization gripped my heart, a thought so harrowing that it twisted my insides into knots. What if this connection between us was not just forged in shared pain, but tied somehow to Lily? What if the choices we made here would not only impact our lives but lead us directly into the abyss? "Choose, dear mother," the man said, his voice like thick syrup. "What will you sacrifice to save your dreams, your daughter, or even this sweet girl beside you?" And with a glimmer of triumph in his eyes, he raised the artifact, shrouding us in an enveloping darkness. In that very instant, my world, once defined by love and hope, teetered on the brink of a decision that could change everything. The darkness seeped in like a thick fog, wrapping around us, suffocating hope and dousing the fleeting spark of courage that had ignited moments before. I felt the weight of the man's words settle into my chest, heavy as lead, and my pulse quickened with the ferocity of all that was at stake. What can I sacrifice? I whispered to myself, though clearly, he had already read the answers on my face. Come now, he said, his grin deepening, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp. You must know the answer. The veil of uncertainty fades with sacrifice. Do you wish to save your child? Yes, but not like this. My voice clawed its way out, rising with the defiance I desperately clung to. I refuse to play your game. Maisie looked at me, terrified and yet unwavering. The bond we had forged rooted in our shared fear and desperation strengthened the resolve I hadn't known I possessed. We can't let him win, I murmured to her, if sensing a flicker of rebellion. The man's gaze hardened. It's not just about your dreams, dear mother. You're entwined in something much darker. This girl wears the necklace, but her truth is different from your daughter's. They are connected. You want to save one, but be mindful. Unprepared hearts can just as easily doom both. My mind raced. The weight of his words drilled into me, ringing alarm bells in my heart. What do you mean? I demanded, feeling the terror clawing at my throat. He had touched on something deeper, a connection that felt perilously close to unraveling. What if Maisie was inextricably linked to Lily's fate? I needed to reconnect those fragmented pieces of this treacherous puzzle. Tell me, I pressed. Only a choice will reveal the truth, he taunted, his eyes flashing with a manic gleam. Choose, dear mother. Choose the light of your daughter, or risk dragging this girl into the dark. Suddenly, the shadows pressed closer. I felt the tendrils of despair snake around my throat, tightening, as the sound of weeping echoed within the dark, intertwining threads of anguish that felt all too familiar. Through the haze, I locked eyes with Maisie. In her expression, I saw not just fear but a glimmer of yearning to fight, to survive. I don't want any more pain. I want my life back. I want peace, she whimpered, her voice breaking. The anguish in her eyes hit me like 1,000 daggers, and I realized the cruel irony of the situation. We were each other's hope and fear, intertwined in a battle against a force beyond our understanding. We will find our way back to the light, I said, channeling all the love I had for Lily into my conviction. The man in the shadows recoiled at my defiance for a moment, but his smirk soon returned, a malevolent spark dancing in his eyes. So brave, but it's foolishness to resist. Every moment you delay, something precious is slipping away. Before I could respond, a low rumble vibrated through the alley, followed by a sudden flash of white light illuminating the darkness. A young boy appeared in the distance, a ghostly silhouette emerging from the void, clutching something tightly in his little fists. Help? Please. His voice quaked as he stumbled toward us, the artifact from the man reflecting in his wide, terrified eyes. He looked familiar, but also entirely a mirror of what resilience could blossom in childhood despite overwhelming despair. Who are you? I wanted to shout, my heart alternating between hope and dread. He didn't answer but raised his hands, revealing a small, porcelain figurine, clothed in tattered rags, a figure that twisted my heart. It bore an uncanny resemblance to Lily. I found her. I found Lily. You have to come. She is. Before he could finish, the man lunged forward, snatching the artifact from the boy's trembling hands, the darkness pulsing around him like a living entity. Oh, how delightful. Just when I thought you needed a reminder of your hopelessness. But what a shame. Little one's secrets often come at a cost. The moment hung suspended in time, charged with knowledge and dread. I exchanged a desperate glance with Maisie, our eyes echoing a silent pact. We will fight, she mouthed, and I nodded, emboldened by her unwavering spirit. Take this, the boy cried, tossing the figurine toward us just as the shadows surged forward, cloaking our vision in a haze of terror. I reached for it, fingertips grazing the porcelain when the world erupted in chaos. The essence of the artifact split the air like a thunderous crack, shattering the grip of darkness, revealing a hidden path spiraling forth. Go, find her, and save her, the boy shouted, his voice slicing through the chaos. The man's laughter rang hollow, but the urgency of the moment ignited a fire within me. "Now!" I screamed, clutching Maisie's hand tightly, pushing open the shimmering doorway that had materialized before us. Together, we stepped into the unknown, the chilling uncertainty of our choices looming ominously behind us. But at that moment, the looming darkness began to wane. And though I could still hear the echoes of despair shrieking in the void, I knew one thing: we were about to plunge into a whirlwind of uncertainty, searching for Lily, and perhaps something even greater than just our children perceived by the stark reality of sacrifice. But as the light embraced us, a sense of warmth fluttered beneath every layer of trepidation. With a single choice made, the paths ahead tangled, weaving an unbreakable thread, and lurking in the shadows was an unforeseen truth waiting to be revealed. The light engulfed us, a warm, golden hue that felt like an embrace after bracing against the icy grip of the shadows. As we stepped into the new realm, the world around us transformed into a tapestry of vibrant colors and lush landscapes, a stark contrast to the bleak alley that had confined us moments before. The air shimmered with possibility, yet a chill crept along my spine as the remnants of our fearful situation lurked in the corners of my mind. "Where are we?" Maisie's voice quivered as she scanned our surroundings, her grip on my hand tightening, as if she feared the light itself could betray us. I don't know," I replied, struggling to comprehend the beauty that surrounded us while the specter of danger clung to my heart. "But we have to keep moving. If we stop, we risk losing everything we've fought for." Down a path stretched out before us, paved with stones that glistened like dewdrops under the sun. I felt an instinctive pull toward it, a sense that we were meant to walk this trail. As we advanced, I noticed fantastical creatures darting amongst the foliage, small fairies with wings like gossamer, their laughter tinkling like wind chimes. For an instant, hope flickered within me. Could this truly be a place of comfort and happiness, a refuge from the darkness? But then I remembered the boy with Lily's figurine and the eerie presence of the man who had taunted us. We could not be deceived by illusions. "Do you think we're safe here?" Maisie asked, peering over my shoulder as if expecting the shadows to come creeping back from behind the trees. "There's no way to know," I replied, my heart heavy with the weight of uncertainty. "But we have no choice but to try." We continued along the path until we reached a clearing filled with colossal trees wearing crowns of emerald leaves. The sunlight filtered through, casting dapples of light that danced upon the moss-covered ground. There, in the heart of the clearing, was something I had only envisioned in dreams: a shimmering pool of crystal water, its surface smooth like glass. "What is this place?" Maisie breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It feels magical," I said, captivated by the tranquil beauty before us. Yet, the words stirred something deeper within me, a reminder of innocence lost to darkness. "But we can't lose ourselves in wonder. We need to find Lily." Just as the thought crossed my mind, the pool began to ripple, waves distorting the surface and revealing images swirling beneath. I leaned closer, my heart pounding, and gasped. A familiar face emerged amid the water's depths: Lily, her expression strikingly serene despite the turmoil that had ushered us here. I could scarcely breathe as fear intertwined with relief. "Look!" I pointed frantically, urging Maisie to join me at the water's edge. "She's here. She's close." Maisie's eyes gleamed. "But how do we reach her?" Before I could respond, the water began to rise, forming an archway of liquid light that glimmered invitingly. I hesitated, uncertainty ravaging my mind. Could this be another trap? The memory of the man's boisterous laughter echoed in my ears, vibrating with mockery, reminding me of the price that could come with such daring choices. But the anguish of our quest propelled me forward. "We must try," I said, stepping closer, my heartbeat matching the pulsing rhythm of the enchanted water. As I dipped my hand into the cooling surface, a jolt shot through me. Visions rippled around us, fragments of moments spent with Lily, her laughter, her wild imagination painting the world with colors unseen. "Lily," I strained, hoping my heart could cross the distance. "Mom?" A voice broke through the haze, tender but filled with longing. The sound sent shivers of recognition coursing through me. "Lily," I cried out, desperation squeezing at my chest. "We're coming. Just hold on." But as her image began to sharpen, A shadow flickered in the watery depths, a darker presence lurking just beneath the surface, its eyes glimmering like coals. It was an echo of the man from the alley, and the reality of the connection we had just made hit me like a falling stone. "No," I shouted, pulling my hand back and breaking the connection. The pool stilled, revealing only my own anxious reflection staring back, filled with fear and regret. "What happened?" Maisie asked, her eyes wide with concern. That it was him. He's closer than we think," I gasped, my breath catching in my throat. Just then, the air thickened with an inexplicable weight, and I felt the encroaching shadows curling around the edges of our sanctuary, whispering malevolently. My heart raced as I turned away from the pool, shifting my focus toward the trees behind us. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the trunk of the largest tree, a girl, perhaps Lily's age, with large, haunting eyes and hair that flowed like wisps of smoke. "Help me," she whispered, her voice fragile like glass. "They are coming for you. You must leave before it's too late." With a shock, my heart stopped. Her features were strikingly similar to Lily's, yet the aura surrounding her was enshrouded in longing and despair. I knew then this was not just another innocent lost in the shadows. She held a connection to our plight, a deeper bond that stirred an unsettling truth within the chaotic chaos of my thoughts. "Who are you?" I asked hoarsely, feeling a mixture of hope and fear. Why do you look like her?" But as I reached out to her, the trees quivered, and her form began to dissolve into a gust of wind, leaving a lingering echo behind. "You must choose." Her voice faded, intertwining with a burst of impending chaos as shadows once again took form in the clearing. The world around us trembled as I felt a surge of panic rise within me, and the gravity of our choices pressed heavier than ever. We were entangled in a web of truth and deception, and time was running out. "Go," I cried to Maisie, pulling her away from the pool and tugging her toward the path that would lead us deeper into this enchanting yet terrifying land. "We have to find Lily and uncover the truth. Whatever it costs, we can't turn back now." But as we rushed forward, a dark figure watched from within the shadows, a knowing smile twisting upon its lips. Once more, the choices we had made echoed in my mind, each decision shackling us to a fate only we could unfold. And just as we dove deeper into the uncertainty of this new world, a chilling realization took shape. Sometimes, it is not darkness that finds us, but darkness we choose to embrace. The echo of my heart thundered in my ears as we traversed the shimmering path. Each step toward the convoluted unknown was a gamble, despite the beauty that surrounded us. The hope of finding Lily surged through my veins, intertwining with a rising tide of overwhelming dread and uncertainty. Maisie walked close at my side, her small hand clasped tightly in mine, our shared fervor radiating within the palpable pressure of the as we pressed deeper. The ethereal glow of our surroundings began to dim, softening the vibrant colors into muted whispers. The shadows edged closer, and with each passing moment, I felt the relentless pull of dread lurking just out of sight. I turned to Maisie, her face a mix of determination and uncertainty. "We're going to find her. I promise," I said, desperately trying to soothe the anxiety racing through us. But before she could respond, a whispering wind unfurled around us, resonating with familiar anguish, a tone woven through our unyielding fear. "You must choose," it murmured again, as if the very essence of the realm was urging us to confront a painful truth. A shiver coursed down my spine, and a memory clawed its way back, merciless in its insistence. The words echoed just as they had when the figure in the trees had intoned the first warning. What would I be willing to sacrifice to save Lily? "Stop." I held my breath and turned, sensing something looming behind us. The shadows rippled and condensed, forming into that dreaded figure, the man who had taunted us before, an embodiment of the malevolence gathering at the edges of our destinies. "You think this game continues without consequences?" His voice was a silky hiss, sparking a fear I thought had dulled. "You are teetering between choice and despair. Which life will you jeopardize? Stay back." My voice surged, raw and unyielding. The pool had revealed him as a thread weaving through our plight, and though my heart raced with fear, strength imbued me, fueling my resolve. This was for Lily. This was for Maisie. "You'll never take it from us." His laughter reverberated like a death knell, reverberating through the trees, suffocating the very air we breathed. Your spirit is commendable, but it is precisely that fiery heart that binds you. You are tied to the past, keeping the shadows close. He took a step forward, and the ground trembled beneath him. A choice must be made, but it won't come without sacrifice. Sacrifice what? I pressed, feeling the weight of 1,000 emotions pressing against my chest. You think you can control our choices? I refuse to be part of your wicked game. But you already are, he replied smoothly, his eyes gleaming with feverish intent. Your daughter's fate, and the girl beside you, it's all entangled. You must choose which lives to save, or lose everything. The truth will be unveiled, but only if you dare. The shadows writhed closer, a consuming darkness impeding our escape, each heartbeat twisting a knife deeper into my consciousness. I stood firm, blocking the fear with an outburst of defiance. No, I won't choose between them. I refuse to let you manipulate us. Maisie's fingers tightened in mine as she looked at me, her eyes shimmering with tears of both fear and bravery. We don't have to sacrifice anyone, she whispered, voice quavering but resolute. We can fight this. In that moment, the connection between us ignited something deeper in the darkness, a shared will to save not just those we loved, but also the pieces of ourselves that had been shattered along the way. Together, I murmured, feeling that hope bubbling beneath the terror. Together, we had a chance. Such bravery and such folly. The man sneered, gaze narrowing as if our resolve was an offense. He lunged forward, urging the shadows to envelop us as I was thrust into a moment of blurred vision, a kaleidoscope of memories swirling within the depths of my mind. Through those memories, I could see Lily, a smiling face lifted by the light, the way she twirled in the park, unyielding in her belief in the goodness of the world. Mom, she called out through the swelling wave of darkness. Help me, Lily. My voice shrieked out in desperation, the pull of that singular truth igniting an overwhelming force inside me. Hold on. I'm coming for you. Every fiber of my being surged forward, channeling the determination for not only my daughter, but for the meek form of Maisie beside me. We could break this cycle of despair. We reject your game, I yelled, my heart thundering in response to the unfolding chaos. We choose hope over darkness. We will free Lily. The energies coalesced. The shadows recoiled, yanking back as if snatched by an unseen hand, and the air shifted with a gust that had been dormant. The man faltered, his smirk turning to a grimace of confusion as he struggled against the light radiating around us. And then together, fueled by love and desperation, we stepped forward. Our voices intertwined as we echoed that timeless truth: we choose hope. In an explosive rush, the shadows fractured, carved away by the light of our newfound resolve, illuminating a path that spiraled toward the pulsating heart of this enchanted realm. The man's furious roar filled the air, a tempest of thwarted despair, but we pressed onward. And then, abruptly, the landscape shifted again. The shadows peeled away, revealing a luminous clearing, and at its center lay a girl, hair glinting with golds and browns like sunlight trapped in autumn leaves. It was Lily, as vivacious as ever, and somehow farther than thoughts could conjure. A part of me grasped the bittersweet truth of this moment. All the maybes and hows led to this singular, unimaginable sight. Mom, she called, the sweet sound a balm to every wound that had festered in my heart. Her eyes sparkled with joy, yet with worry too. We don't have much time. The urgency in her voice cast a twinkling shadow of reality, the truth settling around us just as the darkness dissolved completely. Faster now, I surged forward, racing across that hollow emptiness separating us as Maisie kept pace beside me. We're here. We found you, I cried, urgency gleaming in the tears cascading down my face. And just as I reached for her, the world around us cracked like glass. The shadows loomed ever larger, rippling through the very air until their all-consuming darkness collapsed, sending us hurtling through a void that morphed into sheer brilliance. It wasn't just an escape. It felt like freedom. In that surreal moment of chaos, I stretched my arms toward Lily, and everything collided into one unbroken truth. The warmth of her embrace swept over as we connected, fragments stitched seamlessly together. Her laughter, once a distant memory, rang delightfully through the chaos, and the darkness above us rippled helplessly, its grip breaking as the light flourished, illuminating our surroundings with shimmering hope and unyielding resolve. The man shouted indistinctly, his voice a blur, swallowed whole by the brilliance surrounding us. We had achieved the unfathomable. Then, finally connected with my girl, we began to rise, breaking free from the shattered remnants of shadows that once threatened to consume all. And in that boundless expanse of illumination, I felt the seams of my heart stitched together, a solace radiating in each breath I drew in the distance. Maisie's small hand intertwined with mine as we began weaving our own legacy of light, one that would reflect through the darkest shadows, forever reminding us that love, hope, and courage can triumph over the bleakest nightmare. And as we stepped into the unknown together, I whispered with fierce conviction, "We will always choose love." The echoes of our promise resonated far and wide as we embraced the future, undeterred by the past, but armed with the knowledge that we were never truly alone. In the end, it was love that guided us through chaos and redemption, a powerful force that swirled like the endless tide, assuring that our story would never truly end. It would only evolve, painted in vibrant shades of resilience, tested by storms but unwavering amidst eternity. The shadows were gone, and as long as I had my daughter and the brave spirit of a girl named Maisie beside me, I finally realized light can never fade, even in the deepest dark.